Hello, this is Dr. Brian McDonough. I'm recording this on September 11th, 2021. Right now, as far as COVID statistics are concerned in the U.S., we have 40,847,150 cases since the beginning. 659,065 people have died as a result of COVID-19. In the world, 224,015,152 cases documented. 4,619,760 have died. Recording this on September 11th, it brings back horrific memories for me and for obviously many Americans and people around the world. It was on this day 20 years ago that 2,996 people died from the attack on the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and also in Pennsylvania when the heroic group of people crashed the plane. And when you look back on this and you see senseless deaths, from my own personal perspective, without a doubt, it was the toughest one-day story I ever covered. Having to report from there, I put one thing up on YouTube, but I minimized it because it's really hard to look back and to see that even to this day. And I know for so many people, it's very difficult. But for COVID, we are experiencing at a much larger level very similar feelings for families and for those who have lost loved ones, so many of them. And as ongoing reporting or stories are concerned, this has been extremely frustrating. But for a wide variety of differences, we continue to try to educate people, try to tell them about the importance of vaccination, wearing masks, social distancing, getting good air circulation, all of those things. And although widely accepted, there's still a lot of misinformation out there. And there's a lot of choices that people may be making that aren't putting themselves or their families in the best position. So there's a need to continue with this conversation. I want to address a couple really important issues. The first is there are a growing number of people who have been vaccinated who are getting sick with COVID, and that's being publicized, and it should be. And some are asking, well, why did you even get vaccinated if you're going to get sick? Well, the reality is vaccines are only at best 60, 70, 80, 90% effective. Now, these COVID vaccines are extremely effective. But the concept of a vaccine is that, one, if you get exposed, it dramatically cuts down your chances of getting very sick. I mean, that's the theory behind the flu vaccine. Every year, we try to cut down the number of people who are going to get very sick by vaccinating them, and it works. But the second part of a vaccine is to build belief and agreement that the vaccine works, because then you get the virus out of the community. So what happens in the case of, let's say, polio or measles or mumps, you go down the line, there were vaccines that were given and there was a buy-in. Everyone bought in, they got the vaccine, and essentially, in the case of things like smallpox, we eliminated the growth of the virus. And even with anti-vaxxers out there, it wasn't enough of a percentage to make a big difference. So for something like measles, we would see pockets of outbreaks, but we were able to control it. But vaccines don't work at killing and suppressing a virus unless you reach what they call herd immunity, but a significant percentage. And never in the history of this country have we had such objection to a vaccine as the COVID vaccine. So as a result, it's still out there and it's still thriving. So if you're not vaccinated, you're 11 times more likely to die. If you're vaccinated, you get a great degree of protection, but because you don't have everybody buying in, the virus still is out there. And that's really where we are until we can get more people vaccinated. This virus will continue to grow and to mutate. The other issue that I'd like to talk about is children in schools. A lot of parents, understandably, are worried about their kids going to school. So how do you protect children the best way? Now, this is very complicated, but it's very logical. Everything with this virus is complicated, but logical, as we learn. The first thing we should be doing is we should be testing regularly. You want to make sure you know if people are carrying the virus, get them out of the situation, and protect other people from people carrying the virus. So there should be regular testing. You should have really great air circulation. I mean, you want to make sure that there's air circulation, and that things are basically improved to the great extent they can. The testing in the air circulation have not been done by and large to the level we should have done with the knowledge that we've been working on this for the whole last year. The next step is masks. Because children under 12 can't be vaccinated, they have to be treated as if we were in the pandemic when we weren't vaccinated, and they should be wearing masks. And you should vaccinate as many people as possible who come in contact. So teachers, custodial staff, people delivering products, goods, try to cut those down. Because if not, what you're seeing cases in children. The one other issue that's coming up is we're seeing more children who are hospitalized. What's going on then? I mean, I thought children were not supposed to get really sick. Isn't that what they were saying at the beginning of the pandemic? No, what they were saying was the older you are, the more underlying conditions you have, the greater your chances of getting sick or hospitalized without a vaccine. So what happens is in a young group of people who don't have a vaccine, they are still widely protected and do very well. But with this Delta strain moving more rapidly, far more rapidly than the initial COVID strain, and with people still not necessarily wearing masks in school or those precautions we're talking about not being taken, the virus can spread rapidly through that group. So more kids are getting the virus, and as a result, not a greater percentage of people who are getting the virus are being hospitalized, but a greater number are because more kids are getting the virus. You know what it all comes back to. It all comes back to getting people vaccinated and doing the best we can to be responsible. Ultimately, it always comes back to that.